Alright, morning everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. And so today's Friday. What's the topic? Well, I got to cut up some wood, and I'm going to give you just a brief overview of when I get this wood supply. You know, how do I cut it up for projects versus firewood? And there's a lot of YouTube videos out there on how people cut wood, but I'll go through, you know, kind of like a quick thing, like on how I do it and what, you know, how I prepare the wood for projects versus just cutting it up and then stacking it into a firewood pile. Now there's two other projects on here, you know, I'm going to discuss, and I'll probably break them out into two different videos or multiple videos. So, you know, we'll just have to see how it goes. Now, one of the first things I wanted to talk about, as you remember in the past video, I did this platform, or this flat cutout of a log, and if you remember it, and this is it right now. Okay, this is finished, and I'm going to use it for a base for other projects. I could put a big vase on here that I made out of wood. You know, I could do a lot of things. So I wanted to experiment and see how this came out. So if you remember, I sanded it, I applied the dyes, I lightly sanded it, and this right now has got 3 coats of that Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Clear Gloss. I'll leave the link below. I get it off Amazon. It's not the only thing that you can use. I also use Def Lacquer spray a lot of times. Depends on the sale, I suppose, and, you know, like I said, it ships prime. Anyway, this is the base. That's how many coats there are. I'll put one more coat on this, and then I'm done, and the base is done. Now, if you also remember on the last video, and we're going to go through that today, this morning, I did a carving, kind of. I took, let me grab it, right here. Okay, it's a branch, and I hollowed it out, and I, you know, flattened off the base so it sits flat. So how did I do that? Okay, so on the last video I told you I use a Forstner bit, and I went up and down, cleaned it out. Then I set the depth gauge on my drill press, and I went up and down, and I got it fairly well hollowed out. Then I took my master carver, or if you have a Fordham or whatever you have, with one of those burrs, and I used a coarse burr that's by Kutzall, and I just went in and I cleaned it all up the best that I could. I did not hand sand the inside of it. It's hard to get into to hand sand. It's hard to get into to hand sand, but the thing is, it's meant to look rustic anyway. And then I sanded the outside of this just by sitting here with a random orbital at the end of the day. You get your favorite beverage, whatever it is, beer, whatever. Don't use power tools and you know, be drinking. That's a big no-no. But at the end of the day, you're doing something mindless like sitting here hand sanding and just finishing out the day. Drink what you want, do what you want to do. Me, it's ice water usually, and that's about it. Once in a while, tea. So morning, yeah, I have my cup of coffee with you guys. So what are we going to do now? I'm going to put a coat of that Rust-Oleum, you know, clear on here. I keep saying that because it's what I have a lot of, but you don't have to use that. Like I said, finish this however you want to. When I was done hand sanding this is sanded up to 320. 220 real well, 320 I hand sanded like I did. Well, what I did is I actually used the random orbital till I got up to 220, and then I stopped using it. I hand sanded. I used the random orbital in 220, and then I stopped and I went back over the whole thing by hand, and like a foam block wrapped around it, and I just sanded it, and then I did 320 the same way. So then what did I do? I used Danish oil. Okay, I'll leave the link below. And I put 2 coats of Danish oil on this, and I put it on there, fairly good, real thick coat on the beginning, and I let it sit for about 15-20 minutes, and then I get a damp rag or shop towel with Danish oil. I go over it again real quickly. Then I get dry shop towels and I take off everything that I can. I don't let it sit up wet. So you apply it, let it sit for a while. If it gets a little tacky, and in the temperatures hitting 118 plus here where I'm at, the surface does begin to get tacky kind of fast, so I re-moisten it, and then I use those shop towels and I dry this off the best I can. I let it sit a minimum of 24 hours. Sometimes it sits longer because, like everybody else, I work. And then I come back and I do that same thing again. Now this has been sitting for 3 days now after the second coat. So I'm not going to spray it on camera. It's kind of a mindless thing. I mean, you can just use rattle can gloss clear like I'm going to. I'm going to go put a coat on this, and then I'm going to come back. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll do questions and answers. And this is probably going to take 3 coats or so, I'm guessing. But I'll put the first one on, I'll come back, I'll show you, and then we'll do 1 or 2 more coats, and we'll finish this project out. Okay, stay tuned, and I'll be back. Okay, folks, so this is with 1 coat of that gloss clear. And it looks really good, and when I'm done, it will look about the same as it does now. It'll make a nice pencil holder, something decorative for a desk or somewhere, you know, I don't know, whatever somebody wants. And this is how I finish these projects. Okay, now I want to tell you, I don't leave these out in the shop. I learned the hard way. Whether it's this base or whether it's this hollow form. Once I put some kind of a finish over this, I move them inside. Where it's cooler, there's a reason. If it sits out here in the heat too long, you're going to get blistering and bubbling with these extreme heats on your finish. The other thing is it keeps it in a more dust-free environment while the finish is drying. So this is kind of how I do most of these projects, or at least these for right now, and where I store them and what I do. And then I move on into, you know, taking photos of them, putting them on my phone, trying to sell them at work and so forth. And, you know, that's kind of a hit and miss thing, but it's kind of a quick tip, kind of a video, I suppose, letting you know this is how this turned out. Turn it around here slowly. Okay. That's pretty cool. I kind of like this side of it, you know, with the knot in it and stuff. Okay, let's go to questions and answers. Hang on just a sec. Okay, so questions and answers. The first question is, do I ever sand more than 320? No. I usually don't even go that high. Like I tell you in a lot of my videos, if I'm doing a film finish, it's kind of a waste of time if you're putting a film finish on it. If you are just going to stick with that Danish oil finish, and I know that, yeah, I will probably sand 400 or 500, you know, thereabouts. Look at it. And like I tell you, always wear a pair of like reading glasses because it really magnifies any of the previous grits sanding marks. So you always want to get out the previous grits sanding marks. Now that's a big deal. It's a simple thing to say. I can't tell you when I'm down at project kind of shows and street fairs and stuff like that, I'll pick up something that somebody did out of wood and I take a close look at it. And I'm not going to say anything, but it's kind of like, wow, you know, if you would have just spent more time sanding, your finish would have looked so much better. But, you know, I don't say anything about it. Everybody has their own technique, their own way, and nobody likes being criticized. So my biggest advice when it comes to finishing anything in woodwork, spend more time in the area of finishing. And that's the difference. Like I said, somebody told me, what's the difference in finishes? Well, the difference between a mediocre finish and an outstanding finish, a little bit more time. Spend more time. Reading glasses are a little quick, you know, tip. I mean, they work great. Like if you get 2x5 magnification dollar store glasses, and I've got a couple of them laying around the shop here, I pick them up, I put them on, and I mean, it magnifies it. I can see, wow, after you sand for a while, sanding looks like sanding and things get kind of blurred and you think you got everything out but you really didn't. So it magnifies it and you get out all those previous marks, and then when you go to apply your finish, whichever finish you're using, it doesn't matter if it's an oil finish, varnish, lacquer, whatever you're going to use, your finish will turn out much, much better. I guarantee you. Try it on a scrap piece of wood and finish it. Then do it the way that I'm telling you, compare the two, and you're going to see there's a marketable difference between the two. Okay, that's beating that into the ground. What do I do for cracks and stuff like that? Thin CA glue. I have plenty of videos showing you how I use and apply. I either use stick fast or Starbond, and how that will stop the cracking, which is what I want to do. I don't want it to continue cracking, so it's an excellent quick fix if you're worried about additional cracking as the wood dries. A lot of wood that I have is dry, but not all of it. Some of it still has high moisture content. So what's the big deal about that? Well, I want to control the drying process. The slower I can make it dry, the least likely it is to crack. But that's a whole other subject on a whole other video. So anyway, I use thin CA glue, and I got a couple bottles of it. Usually when I'm down onto my last bottle and I'm halfway through it, I order more off Amazon. Or, you know, if you've got a local supplier, get it there. I don't have anybody out here where I live that even Home Depot and Lowe's don't carry it. So, or they might carry something made by Gorilla or some stuff like that. But these are the two brands that I favor, and I've used them for years. Okay, is there anything else? Yes. How did I sand the inside of this? I didn't. I used a coarse Cuts-All carving burr. I probably got the idea off Jordy's channel, Carving Fusion. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's interesting. He does a lot of wood spirits, and I think it's just really cool. I mean, how he does it. But anyway, check it out. So anyway, I got the idea off of there. I ordered one on Amazon. It's the coarse. And my master carver spins at a high RPM like the Fordham, but I just take very light cuts and I keep shaping and light cuts. And it comes out well enough for like a rustic, you know, like I said, base, pencil holder, whatever. So, all right, not a lot of questions this time. I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. Keep following me. I will see you on the next video where we will do something different. Thank you, folks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.